let's do this. This is a call for unity, where voices from all around this great nation are coming together, standing as one. 'Cause we're one Tea Party. When we're together, it's a jamboree, and we're one Tea Party. United we stand, fighting for our liberty as one Tea Party. When we're together, we're all sight to see, 'cause we're one Tea Party. United we stand united as one. I smell the blood in the water, liberty in the air. There's a Tea Party, freedom frenzy everywhere. We're like an alpha male, the silverback, the great white shark of a shark attack. Locking arm in arm, we got something to say. If you didn't hear us yesterday, you'll hear us today. We're like a bird of a feather, all flocking together with the same voice underneath the same umbrella. As one Tea Party.
We are at the American Conservative Union talking with Executive Director Gregg Keller. Mr. Keller, thank you for agreeing to this interview.
Thanks for coming.
You just recently came off of CPAC Colorado, which is one of your regional CPACs. That makes number 3 that you've done in the last 18 months. Was it a success?
Huge success. You know, we've been really gratified and pleased, just how big these regional CPACs have become. Our still fairly new Chairman Al Cardenas came on as the new chairman of ACU about a year and a half ago, really with the vision of taking the things that ACU was already doing well in the conservative space and doing more of them and taking them out to the states and partnering more closely with think tanks and Tea Party type organizations across the country. And one of his visions that I think we've been able to execute in these first couple of years is taking CPAC on the road. CPAC National in Washington, D.C. every year has become the most important conservative event that goes on in America every single year. And so we've started doing those out in the States. So we went to Orlando, Florida, we went to Chicago, we just finished up in Colorado. And every single time we do a regional CPAC across the country, we get thousands and thousands of really enthused, really excited conservatives turning out because they want to meet more conservatives, they want to hear the best conservative speakers there are, they want to hear great panel discussions. So Colorado was no different from the other regional CPACs we've done. It was really a huge success.
Speaking of the annual CPAC in Washington, CPAC 2013 will be held in March this year.
March 14 through 16, we're going to be at the Gaylord Hotel here in the greater Washington, D.C. area. We're really excited about it. We decided to move hotels this last year because as CPAC becomes larger and larger and larger and draws more and more people every single year, it becomes a bigger event, gets more press at it, we really just were at the point where we were growing out of hotel after hotel after hotel. And so we've partnered with a really large hotel this year. Going to keep that same kind of intimate feeling that really helps make CPAC National such a special event and one of the can't-miss political events of the year, particularly for conservatives. But we're excited to have even more space in a bigger hotel for our attendees this year.
How long have you been with the American Conservative Union?
It'll be 2 years in, I think, February.
When you first came on, there's a right-wing watch type liberal left website that likes to attack conservatives in any way, shape, or form they can. You worked with Ralph Reed before coming to the American Conservative Union, and at the time that you came to the ACU, there was a little bit of infighting, you might say, between certain conservative groups, specifically Go Proud and others. And my question is, what is ACU and CPAC going to do moving forward in bringing more conservatives together from all walks of life and not let the left try to put out stigmas claiming that it's not an inclusive organization?
Sure. Well, I think, first of all, I think the politics is a contact sport, and I think that, if you're not used to that, you're probably not in the right business. What we've really tried to do is just expand CPAC as large as possible to get more attendees than we've ever had in the past, to have more sponsoring organizations than we've ever had in the past, to really unite the conservative movement. And I think that you really saw that at CPAC, at the last CPAC National that we did. I think you see that evidence by these regional CPACs that we're doing. You've really seen in the last year or so, and I like to think that ACU and CPAC have played a significant role in this, you've really seen a coalescing of the conservative movement in the last couple of years to an extent that I don't think you have seen in the past. Now, a lot of that, let's be honest, has to do with President Barack Obama. He's probably one of the greatest unifying factors that the conservative movement has ever had. But I really like to think that ACU and Chairman Cardenas and the work we've been doing here has played a role in that as well too, in coalescing the conservative movement to move forward together.
Speaking of President Barack Obama, there was a second debate last night. And despite the fact that he has a dismal record by his own definition, the polls seem to be really close. It seems to be that people still haven't jumped off the Obama bandwagon. What is Romney and the conservative or the GOP going to have to do to get people to understand that Barack Obama has hurt this country more than he has ever helped it?
You know, I think that these debates have been just a fantastic forum for Mitt Romney to play, you know, to get that message across directly. I mean, you look at that first debate, which was just an unmitigated disaster for President Obama and for his re-election campaign. I mean, he was literally, you know, almost incapable of putting together 2 or 3 cogent, coherent sentences in a row about why he deserves to be reelected as President of the United States. And we saw that again last night. You know, you see Barack Obama slinging a lot of mud, you see him throwing a lot of bombs, but you don't hear any sort of compelling case or vision for what he wants to accomplish in the next 4 years were he to be elected. And what Mitt Romney needs to continue to do is really make that jobs and economy message that he continued to make last night, which is, we spent trillions of dollars on a failed stimulus. The unemployment rate is through the roof. 23 million Americans are out of work or have given up trying to get work. When President Obama became president, we've seen the number of people on food stamps go up by something like 15 million people. The unemployment rate amongst women has been going up ever since Obama got in office. And I think that these debates give Mitt Romney, who's very good in debate settings, it gives him an opportunity to just hit message point after message point after message point. And what you see, for instance, if you look at Frank Luntz's focus groups at Fox News following the debate last night, Romney is turning a lot of these undecided voters because the economy is so bad, because Barack Obama's job performance has been so abysmal. It's really just the natural home for these undecided voters to get to. I think if you're Mitt Romney and the Romney campaign, I think you need to keep doing what you're doing. Don't force it. They're going to come your way. Just keep, you're talking about the number one issue people care about most, jobs in the economy. And because of Barack Obama's failings, that's a very, very significant, meaningful argument that you're making to folks that they're susceptible to.
Interesting that you said he needs to continue to hammer the economy and jobs. Some in the media have actually claimed and accused the Romney campaign of chasing the rabbits, so to speak, that had been thrown out by David Axelrod in the Obama campaign. Do you think that maybe he should stay away from responding so quickly to the Benghazi thing or responding to what the Obama administration itself is doing as far as failing in its foreign policy, and let those things just play out the way they're going to play out?
Yeah, I don't know that I really agree with people's view that somehow he's been chasing these rabbits. I think that, if anything, the Romney campaign they've been extremely disciplined. I think that's one of the biggest knocks that you've seen on them. I don't necessarily ascribe to it, but I think that it's been a very, very disciplined campaign that is, from day one, tried to stay focused on jobs in the economy. When it comes to the Benghazi situation, I think you had both sides were accused of playing politics. Unfortunately, what we see from the mainstream media is that when they believe that a Republican or a conservative is playing politics on something, and the Democrat liberal is doing the same thing, the Democrat or the liberal never gets called on it. It's simply the Republicans who seem to get called on these things, unfortunately. So, I wouldn't change anything that Governor Romney did on Benghazi, and this is a situation that just continues to kind of unravel for this administration. I mean, it seems like every day, every week, some new information comes out on exactly what happened in Libya, when it happened, what the administration knew, and when it knew it. Most recently with Secretary Clinton having to come out and saying that she bore all the responsibility, and then last night President Obama had to come out and say no, he bore the responsibility. It's really, this Libya situation is unfortunate from a human standpoint, of course, but it's also politically very unfortunate for the Obama administration, and increasingly difficult for them to get away from.
Secretary Clinton is a skilled politician by any measure. Controversy's not new to her. She definitely knows how to take a bullet for the party or for the team. Do you think that her coming out the day before the presidential debate and saying that the buck stops here was in fact a political move to try to neutralize it for the debate itself?
You know, I mean, the Clintons are oftentimes in their tactics have been so Machiavellian at sometimes over the years that, you know, I don't know that I'd really put much past them when it comes to that kind of thing. I'm not much of a conspiracy theorist. You know, I think it's pretty clear that she, as you said, I mean, she definitely does have a political agenda of her own. I think she still probably very much still wants to be president of the United States someday, if I had to guess. So I wouldn't put, in terms of political tactics, I wouldn't put anything past the Clintons.
All right. Look, I've spent the last 6 months covering some of the liberty-minded events across the country, and some of these individuals participate in the CPACs as well as the regional ones. And I just spent this past weekend covering one. What can the ACU and CPAC and the conservative movement as a whole do to reach out and bring some of these liberty-minded voters into the GOP tent to where they're comfortable? Because from the issue standpoint, it seems like conservatives, CPAC participants, and these liberty-minded voters are actually closer together on the issues than people want to admit.
Mm-hmm. You know, I think that we need to stay focused here at ACU and at CPAC on bringing folks into the conservative tent. It's not our job to focus on bringing liberty-minded folks into the GOP tent. You know, that's not really our charge. We've had just a tremendous amount of success, you know, working with a lot of these liberty-minded groups and bringing them into the fold for CPAC National and bringing them into the regional CPACs as well too. In fact, you know, if you were in Colorado or in Chicago, you would have seen booth after booth, organization after organization of libertarian and liberty, you know, minded and focused groups coming in. Not only are they coming on board, but they're coming on board in a more substantial manner than they have in the past as well too. And we're really, really sensitive here at ACU and CPAC that the conservative movement is ideologically a very diverse movement, and the libertarian point of view is a very strong and very important strain in the conservative movement overall. That's why you see so many libertarian and liberty-minded speakers on panels at CPAC. That's why you see so many standalone speeches. You know, Rand Paul has been one of our foremost, for instance, surrogates at the regional CPACs that we've been doing. I don't know if he was at Colorado or not, but he does just about every single regional CPAC we do. He's been a fantastic partner with us in pushing these issues in front of liberty-minded voters. So we need to continue to focus on them and really just incorporating libertarians and the liberty viewpoint into every single thing we do. So whether it's national CPAC, whether it's regional, we want to have their speakers, we want to have their panelists at CPAC National, we want to have them at our regional CPACs, we want to incorporate them into the issues they care about in our congressional ratings and the state legislative ratings that we're doing this year in 15 different state capitals. So for us at CPAC and at ACU, keeping in mind our libertarian brethren, and we have several of them on our staff here at ACU, keeping them in mind every single day and every single thing we do is really important.
You have a gentleman that I think you've personally met and grown to know that recently passed away this year, that was a participant at CPAC 2012 in February, Andrew Breitbart. There are 2 films that I know of. One's available on DVD, Occupy Unmasked, which Andrew played a very big role in getting produced and out. There's a new one coming out called Hating Breitbart, which kind of goes over his life. And then you have the Tea Party movement that Andrew Breitbart was so involved in and supportive of. On the 27th of October, you have a production in New York City called Occupy versus Tea Party. If you could write, say, 2 questions or 2 issues that from a conservative standpoint you would want the Occupy movement to have to respond to, what would they be, just off the top of your head?
I think number one about Occupy is exactly what do you people stand for. I mean, one of the most amazing things that you saw from these Occupy protests going on across the country is you went to these Occupy encampments, and I've been to a few, and you saw people, there was no coherent message whatsoever. You would see, you know, here in Washington, you would see one message. Across the country, you would see others. There was no unifying message, which I think was one of the main reasons for the downfall of the entire organization. At the end of the day, the Occupy movement really didn't stand for much of anything. So I would ask the Occupy movement in a sentence or two, what do you stand for? Because I don't think they even know. I think that would be the biggest thing, and that's one of the greatest things about the Tea Party movement. The Tea Party movement stands for something very specific. Taxed enough already. Very simple. It's in the name, it's easy to remember, it can be summed up in one sentence, in fact less than a sentence. And that's why the Tea Party continues to be one of the most important political movements in the history of American politics. And the Occupy movement was just a flash in the pan and really has been thrown on the ash heap of history already.
You said that that's the reason the movement has faded out. In an interview I did with Stephen Banyan, who's the producer and director of Occupy Unmasked, Stephen says that the movement hasn't died out at all, but that it's actually, in his opinion, sitting in the wings waiting for the results of the election. And he put it this way, that if Mitt Romney was to win the electoral vote on November 6th, and Obama was listed as actually winning the popular vote, that's when you would see Occupy back in the streets creating chaos. So do you think that they are still sitting out in the wings, as Steve Banyan might suggest, or do you think they really have faded away?
No, I mean, I think that these particular individuals still, still exist and are obviously still in our country. I mean, to Stephen's point, I mean, that's a scary, possibility. I mean, you look at a lot of the things that were going on in these Occupy encampments. When you talk about the assaults that were taking place, when you talk about all the various police enforcement problems that were just rampant among these camps all across the country, I consider that to be a scary possibility that something like that may unfold.
CPAC 2013 is coming up. Where can people go and get more information on the conference?
Conservative.org, www.conservative.org is where you can find all kinds of information about CPAC 2013. We're expecting it to be our biggest, best, most successful CPAC ever. This is an event that really has become the showcase event for the entire conservative movement. If you're a conservative, you have to be at CPAC. It's part conference, it's part political rally, it's part family reunion. I've been going to CPAC for 7 or 8 years now. Before I was involved in ACU or CPAC as a staff member as well too. It's one of the most fun, energizing, fantastic political experiences that you'll ever go to in your entire life. Great speakers, great panels, great friendships, great fellowship, and an opportunity to see your fellow conservatives who may be from all over the country once a year, who maybe you don't get a chance to catch up with every single year. So it's really a blockbuster. We're expecting it to be our best ever, and we're looking forward to having as many people there as possible.
CPAC is open to the general public to register?
Absolutely. Anyone who would like to come is more than welcome to do so. They just need to go to conservative.org and they can register whenever they like.
In fact, it's my understanding the registration is now open.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mr. Keller, thank you for spending this time with us.
Thank you.
Professors indoctrinated our kids taught what to think, how to think, the positive missing link immediately chastised me from pain and sanitize the both thoughts on freedom before they dies. Then tranquilizing, calmly advising get back inside and take their place on a socialist utopian assembly line.
Just believe, just believe.
As the African celebrate another successful scholastic lobotomy, the new class of liberal order my times are unleashed on society. Mentally sterilized, their common sense